square that's not in the way of anything. So to open a bottle, you would go to the table. You would see the name of the producer, the vintage, the region, and the main grape if you feel comfortable. And you would want to have your wanky ready first of all. So you kind of want to hold the napkin just between your fingers here, and you want to do 2 slices. So you're gonna slice the front, and then you're gonna slice the back, and it should be just 2 motions. And then you're gonna slide down the middle, and you're gonna pull it up, and that should come up pretty easy. Then you wanna just put your worm in, and you don't want to shake the bottle too much. You want to kind of just leave it so they can.
Popping it in is the hardest part for me, though. Like, so I know it's like kind of off center or something.
Yeah, it's a little bit off center. I think it's just doing it and getting comfortable with it. But it is also about kind of having a good wanky. There are some wankies that I would have like a harder time doing that with. So a nice like little like sharp, kind of skinnier like worm will be helpful. Then you want to present the cork to the guests, right? So like if you were the guest, you would present the cork. Sometimes they like to smell it to see if it's cork. If you were presenting the bottle, you would pour a little bit of wine, just about an ounce, and then you would wait for them to accept it. But we're gonna work on reasons why you would decant a wine. So this one is a pretty young wine. It's 2022, and it's also Pinot Noir. So a lot of people wouldn't decant it, but let's say that it was a young like Bordeaux that has a lot of acid, a lot of tannin, like it's really tight. Then what you would do is you would splash decant it. So you would put it in something like this or this, something that's gonna get a lot of air really quickly. So what it's doing is mimicking the effect that time would on the wine. So you're oxygenating the wine pretty quickly, and that's gonna open it up, kind of like break down the tannins a little bit, make it a little bit softer, make it more approachable right away. So for example, if we were doing a young Bordeaux, you know that we're gonna have a dinner in like 2 hours, we would open it and decant it, and that way it's ready for dinner, depending on the wine. The other reason why you would decant a wine is if the wine is an old wine. So let's say that this was like a 2000 Bordeaux. That's gonna have a good amount of sediment in the wine. So then what you would do is you would have a candle. So I don't know, do these move?
Yeah, of course.
So what you would do is you would light the candle, and you would put the decanter kind of like off center. This is a little bit tall, but essentially, let's say like this was the candle, right? So you would have your decanter, and you would have the candle, and you would not put it directly over the flame, but you would put it in a way that you could see the neck of the bottle, and then you would slowly pour it into the bottle, and then the flame should be lighting the neck of the bottle, and you should be seeing at some point, not right away, but the sediment kind of settles to the bottom. So then you would kind of take a look and see where the sediment would start to come through, which it's always at the very end, like the last 3 ounces. So this is not going to have any sediment because it's young, but an older wine will have sediment. So essentially, at this point, you would kind of slow down a little bit, and then you're going to see sediment kind of pulling in the shoulder of the bottle. And then you would try to probably leave a little bit, let's say probably like that much, and then that at the bottom is going to be sediment. But if you were doing it with an actual older wine with a candle or like even like a flashlight underneath, you would be able to see the sediment. And then you can kind of decide where you would want to stop. If you know that it has a lot of sediment, you would leave like a couple ounces, or if it doesn't have much sediment, you can probably pour a little bit more. But that's essentially the reasons why you would decant a wine.
Is it frowned upon to use like a chinois or a mesh strainer or something like that?
So I would say yes. Like if you're at your house, that's totally fine. But using a tool like that is kind of like it's showing that you already messed up. You shook the bottle before you grabbed it or something happened. So with older wine, it's gonna be nicely placed in the cellar, right? So let's say that it was a pretty old wine, like from the 80s or something. You would grab it from the cellar in the same way that so let's say like the wine is like sitting like this, right? I would be careful. I would grab it and I would bring it to the table in a little basket, and I would bring it to the table in the same way that I grabbed it from. So you want to be really careful with the sediment so you don't shake it, and then you would, place it. If you have time to, you could place it down. That way the sediment goes to the bottom of the bottle. But yeah, using a chinois or using like a cheesecloth or like a filter, that's indicative of like you already messed up. So you would want to try to not do that. Also, if you're decanting a bottle in front of a guest, it just looks nicer too.
So are they gonna finish whatever is left, or they just are like?
No,
oh,
so that's
no,
just
it's
sediment.
from-
So essentially, what happens to a wine is that some of like the chemical compounds in the wine kind of clump together. The tannin and the proteins, they form these larger chains, so they become sediment. Kind of part of some of the color particles of the wine also chain together and they sink to the bottom, and that's essentially what it is. It's not bad for you, it doesn't taste bad, it just has like a gritty texture to the wine. So it's not very pleasant to drink it that way. But there are some people with older wine, one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to decant it is if you think that the wine is pretty close to being at its peak and you don't want to open it up because the wine will like fade away. So if it's a pretty expensive bottle, sometimes people will tell you to not decant it because they want to experience the wine as it is. And then they'll just deal with the sediment at the end, they'll just like not pour it out. But that's one of the reasons why you wouldn't decant the wine, because the wine's gonna fade away, essentially.
What do you do in the case of a cork that's brittle?
Yes, so I don't know if you guys have it, but there's another tool.
We do. That's the one I used to open the Jeroboam a couple of days ago.
So there's an asso, which is 2 prongs, and essentially you put one of the prongs down into the cork, and then the other one, and you kind of like wiggle it down, and then you twist, and that kind of breaks like the seal between the bottle and the cork, and then you would just want to like pull it out.
And the guests wouldn't care. They would just be like.
No, it's a pretty standard way of opening a bottle. Like I could even open this bottle with that, and it's probably better for the cork because you're not piercing it, so you can pull out the cork like almost intact. Or there's another tool. It's called a Durand, which has both. So it'll have the worm. So you put in the worm into the wine, and then you put in the asso, the 2 prongs, and then those two together, it's like infallible. You could just, even if the cork's really brittle, it'll come out. You'll get it. So,
But what about the case where you've already tried to open it and like the cork is like brittle and gets into the wine? Like,
Yeah.
really, what do you do in that?
in that sense, like I said, that means we already messed up. So then we would need to apologize to the guys and say, I'm going to take it to the back if you're okay with that, and I'm going to make sure
Filter it.
it's in good condition for you. But ideally, we want to not get to that point.
Would we get a new bottle ever?
So I think that that's where we would need to have like tableside manners of being kind of not getting to that point, because the wine will still be fine, like it'll taste good, like the cork is not going to taint it in any way. It's just about like the drinking experience. At that point, it's just about like the etiquette. So at that point I would try to excuse myself and say I'm going to make sure that this is ready for you to drink when I come back, and then if they say yes, you would bring the same bottle. Unless it's corked, then you can't really say that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So yeah, to recap, that's 2 reasons why you would decant a wine: a young, bold red, so Napa Cab, Bordeaux, Syrah, Sangiovese, that's really young, really tight. You would want to decant, or an older wine you would decant for sediment to separate the wine from the sediment that was created with age. But like I said, some people will not want you to decant their older wine because they want to experience it throughout, as opposed to having it open up and it might fade away because it's old. But yeah, also some people don't like to decant even their young reds because they want to experience that like difference. So we call it like walking along with the wine. So you're experiencing when it's really tight, and as you're drinking it in the glass, it's gonna evolve and it's gonna change. So in the beginning of your dinner, if it's a bolder, younger wine, it's gonna taste pretty different than it's gonna taste at the end of your dinner, which is pretty cool. So some people like doing that. But yeah.
Any other questions, guys? Kaylee, for sure you have a question for Ruby.
Does everybody
I was
feel?
actually soaking it all in. There's a lot of information.
Yeah, it's very good information.
Yeah, it was really good.
Does everybody feel comfortable like opening wine and all of that? Like,
I always feel nervous, especially if it's their bottle,
Mhm.
because I've had one issue here where someone brought 3 bottles, and one of them, the cork was just like
yeah.
so
Yeah.
brittle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
And
opened
it's
up.
their own wine, so it's
Yeah.
like embarrassing for them.
But I need to show you the tool we have upstairs. That's the one I use for the
I would say
Jeroboam.
for corkage, you always want to look at the bottle, and I know it can be kind of awkward because you're like kind of being like, oh, like, what do you bring, you know? But you want to look at it because you want to take care of it. And if it's older, if it's anything older than like 2010, I would for sure use Durand for it.
Off the bat, like you would need to use
Yes, yeah. Unless you feel really confident and like you think you're gonna get it, like sometimes it is like that way. But I would use an awesome for that. For
Yeah,
sure.
we had a guest just a few days ago brought a Nebuchadnezzar in, and the cork on that thing was brittle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was the Justin I saw. So it was, like the cork was
Yeah.
just falling apart.
Mhm.
I don't even know how you guys got it open.
Yeah, and that's more tricky because those big bottles you need like a specific wine key to open those, so that makes it harder as well. So that's really it's like expectation as a guest. You're gonna bring a Nebuchadnezzar format bottle to a restaurant. More than likely they're not gonna have the tools to open it correctly, so you just kind of have to deal with it. But yeah, for corkage, I think to be honest, most people don't bring really nice stuff. They'll bring like medium tier stuff, which is okay to just open, feel like confident about.
Pardo, what was your question?
Does the size or shape of the decanter like change the taste of the wine? Or the,
Yeah, so I would say like for example, this decanter, this will aerate the wine more because it'll have more surface area for the wine to be touching oxygen.
When you want to use that for like something that you're not gonna have a lot of time to give it that oxygen, so you would use that like if your table's gonna be there like either like right away or like in a couple minutes, instead of like,
Yeah, that'll open it up faster than this guy. For example, see like the surface area of the wine that's touching like oxygen is smaller, so it's gonna be a slower process. So this would be better for like decanting an older bottle, and this guy would be better to decant younger wine that you want to aerate quickly. So yeah, it does make a difference. Yeah.